It appears as though the Buy Nothing Rebellion has finally begun. I've been waiting my entire life for this because I've been living the Buy Nothing Rebellion life for my entire life. As a matter of fact, that has put me in the position I am today by simply buying less stuff. People are fed up with buying crap because that's what it's come down to. All the stuff that we're buying today is junk. As a matter of fact, I was just browsing online earlier because I'm trying to buy one of those detachable shower heads for my Airbnb. I got a lake house that I rent out and stuff on the side. And one of my guests wrote a comment and said it would be nice to have a detachable shower head. So I'm looking for a high quality one. I don't want to put one in there that's going to break the first time somebody uses it. So I'm browsing around for like a nickel finish, something that looks stainless steel, something that's durable, something that's going to last a long time. I find a couple that are 40, 50, 60 bucks. I'm thinking, man, that's not bad. So I start looking at the reviews. And I'm the type of person that doesn't look at the 5-star reviews first. I look at the 1-star reviews. And most of the people in the 1-star reviews were saying, I wish this were actual metal. Instead, it's just plastic and it looks metal and it breaks the first time you use it. And that is not what I want. So I'm sitting there searching, trying to find a good nickel finish metal shower head, something that fits the aesthetic of the home. And I'm finding that it's very, very difficult to do. And even the ones that are metal finish are pieces of crap because they're about 150 bucks instead of 40 or 50 bucks. And they have like 3 stars instead of 5-star reviews because they're basically made to break. And that is the reality of most of the stuff we buy. It is made to break. Trying to find high quality products these days is pretty much impossible because literally, the way things are designed is they are made to break. The manufacturers make these things with an expiration date. You think about appliances and stuff like that, they're really bad about that. Refrigerators, washers and dryers, they have all these plastic parts where there shouldn't be plastic parts. And like I mentioned, they are literally designed to work for X amount of years or X amount of months in some cases, and then they break. And you either have to call in a Maytag repairman or you have to buy a new appliance. It's the way the world is these days. And it's that way because these corporations have gotten extremely greedy. And as a matter of fact, in the early 1900s, the Rockefellers made the decision that Americans were pretty darn good at building stuff. And they were good at building stuff that didn't break. So they said that wasn't good for business. Let's make things with an expiration date. Let's make things that break. That way we can have an endless supply of consumers. And here we are, many, many decades later. That's the American way. And just to kind of illustrate how deep the greed goes, over the last couple years, there's been a couple CEOs of some major companies, some major corporations that have made some pretty bold statements. And the statements that these CEOs have made say inflation is good for business. Matter of fact, the CEO from Dow and the CEO from Kroger are both on record saying that. And that is actually 100% true. If you think about egg prices and how they were through the roof just a couple short months ago, the major egg manufacturers actually recorded record profits during that time. So even though there was supposedly a supply chain shortage and all these chickens were getting cold and stuff because of the bird flu and all these things that were happening, somehow the egg manufacturers still were able to profit more money than they've ever profited throughout all of history. Make it make sense, right? And a lot of this comes down to greedflation because what happens is these mega corporations, they see that the consumers are now willing to pay these inflated prices. And these greedy people, they think in the background, you know what? We could probably capitalize on this and we could raise our prices even more because if they're willing to pay that, they're probably willing to pay this. So what do? They raise the price up. And in some cases, they make the products much cheaper. So that way you're getting less product and a less quality product at a more expensive price. And another thing that happens is shrinkflation. That's a big thing that happened during the pandemic and a couple other times throughout history, and it's still happening because the price of everything is rising, and they're like, well, we can't allow this to cut into our profit margins, so let me just put less in the box. So the box is the same size, but the package inside is smaller. And you're going to notice this if you buy processed and hyper-processed food from the grocery store. A lot of times the package you pull out has less things in it. It's less volume, less weight, but the price is the same or in some cases even higher. That's how these mega corporations get away with this. They're very, very sneaky about it. They've got it all figured out. They're exploiting our addiction to consumerism by putting less in the box, making cheaper goods, and raising the prices. But people are finally starting to wise up. And they're finally starting to say, you know what? there is less in the box. The stuff I'm buying is crap, and all this stuff I'm buying I actually don't need. And I definitely don't need to be spending this amount of money on stuff I don't need because everything else is expensive, so I'm just done buying stuff. And that's where this Buy Nothing Rebellion is starting to unfold, and it could change a lot because it was Jason Karp, who worked in the hedge fund industry for over 20 years, came on record last year saying that if consumers, 5% of consumers, stopped buying processed and hyper-processed food, then these companies, these corporations would change their act overnight. They would stop putting crap in there. They would stop poisoning the consumer. They would stop raising the prices and doing shrinkflation and all these shady things that they're doing to our food. They would cut that out. Just 5%. Think about that. That's not that many people. But the reason that is because their profit margins in some cases are actually very thin. And if they lose their consumers, they know that they stand to lose their entire business. And they're not willing to let that happen. So they're going to change their ways. And I believe that if this catches on and people just stop buying stuff, then there's a pretty good chance that these companies are going to turn things around. They're going to say, we probably should start making higher quality products. We should probably stop misleading the consumer and exploiting them and doing all these shady things in the background to increase our profit margins while basically dragging the consumer over the coals. Hopefully that is what happens, and hopefully more people do catch on to this. That way we can see these changes happen. Because if things continue in the direction they're going, prices are going to keep going up. People will continue to buy the stuff, and it's never going to come back down. But if more people choose to jump on this bandwagon and stop buying this crap, there's only a couple options. And I think that's where it's very important to realize the power that we all hold, because every single dollar that we spend is a vote cast. Where our money goes is where the business goes. That's the way it's always been. So really what this comes down to is becoming the change that you want to see. If you want to see prices come down, stop buying stuff. Do like I've been doing for the last 40 years. And just don't buy crap. And don't get me wrong, there are some cases where I still buy new things and I still buy from corporations and stuff like that. I mean, it's inevitable to do that sometimes. But the more money that you can spend elsewhere, the better off we're going to be, because it supports local businesses, it supports the local economy, and it takes money and power away from these large corporations that are screwing us. That's all they're doing. They're screwing us. They're jacking the prices up. They're experiencing record profits while we all, little guys here at the bottom, struggle. We suffer. And they're over there laughing at us as they cash their big fat checks and as their CEO makes multi-million dollars a year, as if he really deserves that. And as these companies grow and produce more and more crap that we don't need at ridiculous prices. So what I've been doing most of my life, and with most of the stuff I buy, is buying secondhand. I intentionally buy older things because I know that stuff lasts longer. If I had to go out and buy a new fridge, I would buy a secondhand fridge that has an upper door and a lower door and does not have a TV, does not have an ice maker, does not have a fancy this and a fancy that and alarms and buzzers and all these bells and whistles. I want something very basic. If I could buy one from the 1950s, that's what I would opt for. There are some of those out there, but people want like $10,000 for them because they do last forever. They're still running today, and that is why they're so expensive, because they were built to last. They were built like tanks, and you could pretty much drop the thing off a cliff and it would still be running after it hit the ground. But things these days are not made that way. I'd go out on a limb here and say that 90% of the stuff that I own is pre-owned. And that is no joke. My vehicles, my boat, my motorcycles, my electronic equipment, laptops, this camera, my phone, everything. I mean, pretty much everything I buy these days is secondhand. And the crazy thing about that is this stuff has lasted a long, long time. And I know guys that have went out and bought brand new cars and they break down after 10,000 miles. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people that do that because my brother just happens to be a service manager for a very large car dealership. And he tells me these stories all the time. This stuff happens. That's why I'd rather buy something that's been broke in. It's tried and true. It doesn't have all this electronic equipment that's going to fail. And it doesn't have all these things that could fail. And it's most likely going to last a lot longer than the new stuff just because there is less stuff that can break. So when I buy things, I shop on Facebook Marketplace. That's actually one of the only reasons I have a Facebook account, is so that I can get on Facebook Marketplace and browse the stuff that's on there. You can even find free stuff a lot of times that is in working condition and not have to spend a dime on it. And to me, that's the ideal scenario. But even if you can't buy something for free, chances are you can get it a quarter of the cost, sometimes less, especially if it's something older, because people are throwing out all this stuff because of consumerism, and they're going out and buying the next newest thing, and they're trading up. They no longer want these old things, and in many cases, they're willing to almost just give these things away. I bought a TV like a year or two ago. It's down in my basement, 46-inch Vizio. It's not a smart TV. I paid $25 for it. Still had the plastic wrapping on the back, where it had barely even been used. Some dude bought it for his dad, and his dad never used it. It just sat in the house, and again, $25. I brought it home, and it's perfectly fine. It works great. It's not a 4K picture, but it's 1080p. High definition, my eyes can't tell the difference, and if I want to see realistic stuff, I walk outside and look at the real world. And those are just a couple ways to take part in this Buy Nothing rebellion and stop supporting these large industries. There are many, many other ways. Another big way I do it is I buy local food. I also hunt and I fish, so I provide for myself. But if you can't do that, just realize and understand that there are thousands upon thousands of very eager farms and local businesses that would love to have your business. And as a matter of fact, I created the largest animal-based directory on the web, and there are over 7,200 farms and butcher shops on this directory. I'm going to put a link to that in the description below and in the pinned comment. Feel free to use that. It's 100% free to use. Find a local butcher shop or a local farm or a local producer in your area and source your food from them. A lot of people think that doing that is much more expensive than buying this junk from the grocery store. But it's not. It's actually much cheaper, especially considering the nutrient quality. And a lot of that comes down to inflation, it comes down to shrinkflation, and it comes down to the way they market the food. Because again, they've got us all figured out. They know how our minds work. They know that they can put a price tag on there and make this giant box and give you the illusion that this food is actually very, very cheap, because look at how much I'm getting. When in all actuality, calorie for calorie, nutrient for nutrient, it's going to be a lot more expensive. And the key thing to realize is that there are options. Don't feel like you have to be backed into a corner and you have to pay these insane prices for this junk food, because there are many, many people out there that would love to have your business, and there's a lot of fantastic food out there. I've been trying to do my part for a couple years now in helping people realize and understand this, and that is the reason I created this farm map. And that is also why at the beginning of this year, I founded a tallow business. I now sell 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef tallow, and that is because I'm trying to create the change that we all want to see. I think it's very, very important to have local farms, local businesses, local producers, and more high-quality products in our purchasing environment. Because if the only thing we're stuck with is all this overpriced garbage from these large mega corporations, and that's all we spend our money on, that's all that's going to proliferate. And if that happens, we'll be at the mercy of all these mega corporations, and we'll be stuck paying the prices that they deem we should pay. But that's what I think is so amazing about this Buy Nothing rebellion, is that the solution to our problems is very, very simple. And it's just a matter of buying from people, not corporations. Buy secondhand, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, flea markets, farmers markets, local producers, local businesses, again, local farms, all these places. They're very eager for our business. When you buy from these places, you're buying from people just like you and I. You're not buying from these large corporations that are owned by private investment firms that only care about profit. But when you're buying from people and you're buying from local producers, they care about the quality of the product. They care about what they're actually providing to you, because they know that's the only way that they can keep your business. And that is perhaps the most important aspect of all this, is just buying from people who actually care about us, the consumer. When you adopt that mindset, that's going to narrow your buying window down quite a bit, because the only people that care about the consumer are the people that aren't just in it for the money. And I really do believe that if enough people jump on this movement and this really starts to take hold, we could start seeing some pretty drastic changes. We might actually start to see things come down. And I think it goes without saying that would be an amazing thing. And definitely let me know down in the comments below if you're planning on taking part in this Buy Nothing rebellion. I've been doing this my whole life, and it's basically second nature to me. But if you're new to this and you're going to jump on board, number one, kudos and congratulations. Welcome. Welcome to the movement. And number two, let me know what you're planning on doing. Let me know where you're planning on buying your stuff. Let me know what you're going to cut out, and let me know what you're going to buy instead, if you're going to buy anything else instead at all. Because the funny thing I've started to realize is that when we're young, there's all this stuff out there that we can't afford. And then we get 30s and 40s, and then there's all this stuff out there that we can't afford and that we're now buying. And then we get 40s and 50s and above, and now we have too much crap. And now we're trying to get rid of all this stuff that we have. And that's exactly where I'm at in my life. I'm actually selling off a lot of stuff right now. I'm on Facebook Marketplace every single day selling stuff off. I've always lived kind of a minimalist lifestyle anyway, but I'm trying to get that down even more and be more of a minimalist because I just don't need all this stuff. And if you think about your own life, there's a pretty good chance that there's a lot of things that you probably buy, just like the rest of us, that you really don't need. It's stuff that you could do without. And if you don't buy these things, obviously you're going to be saving a lot of money. And the fewer things you buy, especially new stuff, the less you're supporting these industries that are dragging us over the coals. Buy from people, not corporations.